What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the Nerd Castle. Today, in the world of indie games, we're going to be checking out Voidtrain. This is actually a game that I haven't covered altogether that much, largely due to the fact that I feel like it made the rounds on trending YouTube, and everybody was really into it when it first came out. It was very popular. Hold on, I got to shoot a giant wolf shark. But we have a fortuitous day today because those of you that have been waiting in the wings for the game to no longer be an Epic exclusive can now be encouraged, for the game is no longer an Epic exclusive. The game is coming out on Steam, and so it's time for us to update our coverage. Since I haven't covered the game in literal years, I'm going to put a new video out there so that prospective buyers of Voidtrain can know whether or not it's worth their time. So welcome on in. We're going to play for about 35 minutes. If after watching this you wanted to get Voidtrain for yourself, you can absolutely do that. I've got a link down below for you. You can check that on out. The downside here is that you are going to have to sync up your Epic account and also your Steam account. I don't know. I have the game like on both platforms now, and so mine did like this automated syncing when it started up. I don't know if it's going to do that for somebody that doesn't have the game on all the platforms or doesn't have Epic installed on their computer. I don't know. I'd have to go test whether or not the game installs Epic along with the Voidtrain title proper. Somehow I doubt it, but I don't know. The link is down there. You can get the Steam branch. You can get the Epic branch. You can do whatever you want. It's totally free and open right now, and of course you'll find a link to my Discord and my Twitch stream, where I will more than likely be playing this game on Twitch the day that this video goes live, so that you can get a much longer 3 or 4 hour look at the game, just in case my video and my thoughts did not suffice, so as to help you make a purchase, I guess, or a non-purchase, which is also an option. So what is Voidtrain? Well, Voidtrain is a game where you are a scientist that was lost in a blizzard. You went into a cabin, you were trying to find the lights. The light switch did not turn on the lights. It opened up a portal into the interdimensional void. You got sucked in, and now we live on a train that travels on a magical train track. And there's space Nazis everywhere. Did I mention that? I don't know if they're space Nazis. I've been calling them the Spotsies because they do seem to have like Stahlhelms and like armbands and things like that. It hasn't explicitly been said by the storyline, but it was an easy moniker to throw at them. But for right now, I'm at one of their stations. I have just murdered everybody that was in here. And so we got to kind of like grab some stuff and leave. I've got a new note that I've added on in, but I'm pretty sure the game probably just wants me to leave the station at this point. Let's get back on down the road. Now, if I had to describe this to a person that wanted to get the game, they asked me like, what is it? Why should I be interested in it? Why is it a game that's worth my notice? Well, this game is basically a hyper-polished AA version of Raft. Whereas Raft was made by a very small team, this game is made by a team that kind of has like the creme de la creme. As you can tell from the graphics and whatnot, all of the creatures look very organic while they're flying around. Movement feels very fluid. The lighting effects are absolutely fantastic. The shadows are thrown just right. Pretty much everything in this game is done to very high detail, almost to the extent that this game has kind of like that feeling of over-polish. Over-polish is this thing that I've noticed in like AAA games like Deathloop, where they feel so fluid and they feel so nice that they almost feel like over-polished. I kind of felt that way about Dishonored as well. And it's a really, really weird thing to claim because honestly, I've never had any problem with either Deathloop or Dishonored. I liked both games. I thought they were both pretty solid, and the patter and banter in both games were pretty good too. But I call that the over-polish. This game is kind of approaching it. It's very, very smooth. It's very clean, almost to the point where you start looking at it and being like, man, this feels almost like overly smooth. This is our train. We live on board it. There will be threats and things that slide through every now and again. If you've been wondering why I've been busting off rounds from my little 380 revolver at that big shark beast thing that's flying around, it's because it does the exact same thing that the shark does in Raft. It tries to attach to the side of our train. It does damage to it. We have to like rebuild chunks and portions. On top of that, we also have controls, so we can stop the train whenever we like. We can make the train move whenever we like. The game does have kind of like a contextual soundtrack, where when things are happening, the music and the tempo will pick up, and it will become a lot less ambient. That's very nice, and I think it's very immersive. I've enjoyed it tremendously, but let me give you a little tour around my train. It's not much, but it's something. Over here, we have my horn. I wanted to get a better horn that played like Oh Danny Boy or something, but unfortunately they didn't have one over at the old train depot. The trolley handle, it lets you go faster. This is my laboratory where we can do chemistry. This allows us to stop and start the train. This right here allows us to make it go forwards and backwards. This is my storage. This is my workbench. This is my research table. And this is my smelter. And that's my kitchen. This is the place where I make dehydrated grilled space poo in order to fill up my hunger meter to satisfy the survival prerequisites that this game wants me to take care of. It wants me to use bandages like so badly right now, but I'm not even wounded. I guess I will. The game's a little bit over-tutorialized. There you go. I have bandaged my wounds. Now it wants me to build a garden. I haven't even researched a garden yet, nor do I think we have the space for a garden, even if I had it researched. The train tends to get longer at pre-specified storyline junctions from what I've seen so far. Like, you will occasionally go to one of the Spotsy stations or a Spotsy outpost or something, and you will get items that allow you to make the train larger and add more cars to it. Why did I just hear scary sounds? I'm gonna shoot you because I can. These little guys right here are not hostile. They don't bother you. They're kind of like flocks of birds. They'll fly around, and actually they get comfortable with you, and they'll kind of like hover around and escort your train. They unfortunately drop leather, though, and leather is kind of like a hard resource to come by in this game by comparison to all the other resources. So every now and again, I kind of just shoot one of them in the face, and because of that, they haven't really settled or accepted my way of life. As it turns out, when you shoot people in the face, they are less than likely to listen to your well-rationaled arguments. As of right now, I'm kind of in a phase of the game where I don't really need anything. In preparation for this video, I think I played the game for about 2 hours, 30 minutes, in there somewhere, just to get us past the beginning tutorial bits of the game, and I'm still kind of not out of the tutorial bits of the game. I've been playing non-stop during that time, and it's still throwing like random little things at me like use a bandage, which is kind of like Shrug. I prefer a more show don't tell aspect of gameplay, so I would have preferred that it be a lot more exploratory and they just leave me to figure out the production chains and what leads to what by myself. But the game is very, very heavily tutorialized, and so that's going to be one of those things. If you're kind of annoyed by the game constantly leading you by the nose, this is 100% that type of game. It is going to lead you by the nose mercilessly for like hours. As you travel along your train, you can see little resources and things floating. There's wood, and there's like chemicals, and there's food. I do actually need food. So in Raft, you use a hook and a rope to gather everything. In this game, you are the hook on the rope, and you can actually swim through the void in order to go grab the things that you want in order to make your life better. Do I have any food around here? My inventory is completely and totally full too. Maybe time for us to break out and build another storage rack, so I need some nuts and bolts for that. All right, as you can see, even little things like opening the building menu in this game look utterly fantastic with their animations. They just look great. In all ways, it kind of reminds me of the glory days of like arcane games, if I had to like sort of tell you the vibe that it gave me. I know that's a terrible name to invoke right now that Redfall is released and everybody is kind of on the bandwagon just beating it to death with cudgels. But there was a time where Arcane released things and you'd be excited about it. I still can't fit the bolts. This is not great. I gotta figure out how to clear out my inventory. I got too many gun parts on me, and I don't have the armory bench yet. When you kill enemies, they drop gun parts, and you can mod your guns. I'll just use that bandage right there. There we go. Now that I've got the bandage used, we can go ahead and we can do a storage rack. Construction in this game is very easy, very simple. I do think that they could condense down the button presses on certain things like moving objects that are already placed. I do think there could be a faster method with less button presses, but by and large, the manipulation of items and like the moving of cabinets and the building of storage chests and things like that mostly seems to be okay and hasn't caused me any problems. There's another rack right there. I will just throw everything in there. Oh, I've got 6 grilled organics on me already. The food in this game is just like generic organics. It doesn't really tell you what it is. And honestly, I think that's probably a fact that we should be thankful for. All right, our survival meter has now been filled. I'm pretty much just gonna hang tight until we get to the next station. I don't need anything from this section of the game except for like a little bit more space to build things. And so I just kind of want to like let ourselves cruise on the tracks for a little bit. If you wanted to see what the crafting looks like, I do find myself at need for a little bit more iron here. So I'll go ahead and smash out some iron. I think I've got some scrap metal over here. So we'll go ahead and take the scrap metal. We will throw it on into the smelter. and you can batch order things if you want to, like so. And then it just additively tells you how long it's going to take to make it, and it will spit them out on this counter right here when it is done. It works pretty much the same on every workbench, whether it be the lab or whether it be the kitchen. You're going to have like a little progress meter. It takes a bit of time, and then the item that you produced will be on top of the workbench for you to pick up. Why did that just appear right there? Something might be about to happen. It's kind of hard to say, though. Ooh, I got 2 of them with 1 shot. Hold on, that's fat right there. I need that. There we go. Oh, is that a leather? No, that's a wood. Okay, I don't need a wood for right now. But if it was a leather, I was about to be really excited about it. Oh, looky there. We got ourselves a leech. As with Sewer Shark, as you play your way through the game, there will occasionally be wildlife that do obnoxious things like attach to your cart. It will slow it down, or I don't know if there's anything that like interrupts crafting or anything, but there are critters and there are monsters and there are things outside just the gunfights you're going to be having with the Spotsies that will give you some principal force of antagonism to sort of keep things interesting so that you're not just like gliding through an interdimensional scenescape, as pretty as it may be. In fact, if you take a look at the reflective effects on the gun, everything looks really good in this game. I think that's one of the things that makes it tremendously easy to get immersed with this title and just lose yourself in the endless ebb and flow of producing random little items on your workbench, is that everything just has the softest of glows to it, and everything has this sort of murmuring sound of almost like a whale's call, and like the small rumblings of the bathtub drain of reality, just sort of moving things around that I think really sell the setting, in all honesty. What's going on over here? The music's changing. We might have another warp gate. So every like X amount of time, you're occasionally going to hit a warp gate in this game. That's a gate that will take you to the grate somewhere else. Uh-oh, I'm getting outran by my train car. That's okay, I can hold down F and I'll pull myself in. It's gonna be all right. Uh-oh. Well, unless I can't get back on board. There we go, perfect. I knew I could figure it out. It is indeed another warp gate. It hasn't been explained exactly what these are or who built them. I'm assuming that's a big part of the narrative, but you can see the big giant ribbons flapping along in the absence of space. And once we get to the triangle up here, we're going to be able to pass on through it, and it'll take us somewhere else to a new leg of our journey that might possibly have better resources or more enemies and gunfights. The game does seem to have itself timed reasonably well in between the peaceful periods where you're building on your craft and the periods where you're fighting and shooting and screaming and running and bleeding and dying and all that kind of good stuff. How much leather do I have left? I gotta go to my lab, and if you could make like 2 sterilizers, that would be good, because I'm gonna make 2 bandages out of those just in case we get ourselves into trouble with wherever this warp gate's gonna take us. Off, and away we go. The warp gate has definitely brought us somewhere else. That's the narrator. The narrator in this game is very well voice acted. He's very charming. I like him a lot. He sort of acts as a commenting third-person party on what's taking place. This right here is the train upgrader, in case you were wondering. Just in case you can find certain things that allow you to make your train bigger. And in fact, I think I would like to do that. It looks like we can do different modules as well, just in case we wanted to move around our brakes and all of our other stuff. If I make, can I manufacture those pistons now? Do I have those? I do, in fact, have these forcers, or these pistons over here, so I could make my train a little bit larger. And considering I was just complaining about having too short of a train and my train not being girthy enough, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do that. Did pick up my sterilizers already. I do want to manufacture those real quick. We'll go adventure and figure out what's happening here in just a minute, but I need to manufacture some grease. Now that we have our strong chemicals, I can get on in here and I can make 6 greases. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not planning to make that many parts of the crap. I was gonna say, if I have more wood on me, throw that on in there. There we go. Just overloaded on wood. Unfortunately, swapping out the fuel source resets the crafting. You can't do it on the fly. So if you got 2 wood left inside of there and you queue up a long job, you can't add like 5 more wood without having to restart the job. It's just kind of the way that it functions. That's a whole bunch of ammunition. This is one of the storyline areas. So you come into these spotsy bases every now and again, and you've got to clear out all the bad guys, knock the Stahlhelms up off their heads, and then ultimately, usually, there's either like jumping puzzles or like a safe or like something you've got to crack or something you've got to figure out in order to get some kind of like ultimate loot or ultimate exposition. And that's just a bunch of ammo for guns that I don't even have yet. Maybe, just maybe someday, I'll have one of the fun guns that goes Burt Burt instead of Pop Pop. But that time is not this time. Oh, there he is. The enemies in this game, they do know how to take cover. They do seem to understand that they've been shot. I don't think that the AI is anything exceptional. Like, I haven't seen it do anything like ridiculously rad and dope yet. But when they get shot, they do try to run to cover, and they do try to break line of sight, and they do try to get like away from you, or at the bare minimum. Oh my God, there's so many of you. Okay. I was not expecting this many. I'm just going to continue blapping, and hopefully everything works out. I'm just going to push you. How about that? We are getting shot an awful lot. Okay, yep, we should probably fall back. There's a few too many of them in here. They are quite aimbody as well. I don't know if I got that one. There we go. Now that I'm not charging headlong into the center. Oh, somebody threw a grenade. Yeah, that's beautiful. I was gonna say, I didn't know if I could hit that tiny part of his exposed head if I went around on the shot. There we go. Got him right there. Where'd the other one fire at me from? Oh, he's on the other side of the box. I didn't even see him. Sir? Please cease and desist. Thank you. So what ill-begotten gains have we found? We found a revolver module. These guys will occasionally drop their guns. They will occasionally drop pieces of their guns. This game does have a full gun modding system where it's got a little bit of a Diablo bent to it. There are different frames, different barrels, different handles, different things like that. They will have differentiated stats. I don't know if they're entirely procedurally generated, but you get different gun parts that will change your fire rate and the way the gun performs. This is more or less uniform across all the guns in the game, things like machine guns, shotguns. We don't have them right now for the purposes of this video, but I've had them before, like in the epic build. Let's see if... So what's laying around here? I mean, they wanted me to go that way, and then I cut off completely and totally in the wrong direction because I don't follow directions. You know, I'm not great at doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm guessing my inventory is full, as per usual. Yeah, it is. It's full. The inventory in this game is quite cramped. The crates are very small. Your backpack is very small. You do have a backpack slot in this game, so I'm assuming at a certain point they're going to let me upgrade my backpack size so that it becomes a little bit less obnoxious to run around with very little inventory space. But you guys know me. I've talked about this on the channel before. I'm not a fan of inventories at all, actually. I think my favorite RPGs and my favorite survival games almost universally were the games that had no weight limit and had no inventory limit. I always bring it back to Gothic 3 and how much I loved Gothic 3 because Gothic 3 had no weight system and it had no inventory limits. Carry as much stuff as you want to carry. Have a good time. Go on fun-filled fantasy medieval adventures. I don't really have enough space for any more receivers. And it looks like we've pretty much dug out everything that was here to be dug out on the back side of this place. So let's go ahead and we will take a look. A little bit of head bob on that run. Should probably investigate and see if I can get rid of the head bob, because I am also a massive hater of head bob. Unfortunately, womp womp womp. It doesn't look like I'm going to have the ability to turn off head bob. So there you go. In case... you are the kind of person that is virulently against head bob. What does that say?
Definitely can't open it with a hammer this time. You need a key.
All right. Oh, cool. I gotta go the way that I already went. All right, fair enough. Let's head on over that way then and see if we can get ourselves into trouble any further. Hopefully it doesn't respawn the enemies and like my previous clearing attempts are still valid. The key is just levitating, floating in midair. Is that a bug or is that supposed to... Maybe it dropped off of one of the spots using something weird. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it would look nicer if it was sitting on a desk or like on a box or something instead of just like levitating in midair. Now that I've got my key, let's slam open this door. Oh, cool. There's a little animation for putting the key card in. I actually didn't expect that. I expected it to just be like, beep, and then open the door. Fair. Chalkboards. Oh, these are other trains. Yeah, we're in some kind of train depot. I guess I probably should have known that considering... Can I detach from over here? I can tie myself off right here and maybe get on top of this train. There we go. Doesn't seem like there's anything too wild and crazy here. Wants me to inspect the console or something like that, but like, meh. I don't follow directions. Take the blueprint. Okay.
Looks like our little train is ready to grow.
The game is full of little interactivities whenever you get to one of these depots or enemy bases. A lot of the time you can interact with lamps, you can interact with little radios and things. There's little things that you can play around with to make the areas feel a little bit more alive. So like, what does it want me to put on here?
Uh-oh. Look at our big train. They always grow up so fast.
So how come that one went on like the front? Like, what's the difference? Because like I could upgrade the wagon, right? I guess I understand the difference. So like you've got to make, when you add a wagon, it puts a little half wagon in, and then when you upgrade the wagon, it doubles the size of it, I think is what happens. Either way, let's go back to our train because we've actually got more space to fiddle around with now. Oh, it slapped it onto the back. I thought it slapped it onto the front for some reason. I must have been just looking at it from a weird angle. Okay, so I can put in some flooring, and I think that's probably a good idea just to capitalize on the space that we can use. And therein comes why we needed... Did I make that? Did I pick up my grease? I think I left it on the counter over here. There we go. Got my grease over here. We needed to make, I think, like 2 of these. I think was what it wanted. Let's look. It did want 2 of them. And so we should be able to double the size of this back wagon, I think, with the upgrade. No, I don't have any space. Man, I'm always out of space, dude. Always out of space, doop-a-doodle-doop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't even know if I need all these little grips, dude. The flexible grip does not, the flexi grip does not seem as good as the other one that we have, so I'm just gonna chuck it. All right, now I can pick up my pistons. Come back over here. We go to the next car. Hey, it added another section to it. I need more stuff for this section, though. It looks like I need a ball bearing. I need 2 bolts. I need 2 springs. So there's definitely some stuff to pick up. Let me see if I can scrounge it from around this area. After a wee bit of scavenging, I think we may have enough stuff to get some activities done here and maybe expand the size of this back car. Maybe. We shall see. Oh, are those blueprints? I don't have the resources on me. Gotcha. Well, now I do. So there you go, little buddy. Have fun being a hardwood floor. My laminate, poof. That's a good laminate job right there. I mean, it's got little gaps in it, which is kind of unfortunate, but mostly a good laminate job. Now, I think we needed 2 ball bearings. What do we need for the 2 ball bearings? We already have the stuff for the 2 ball bearings, so we'll go ahead and knock that out real quick. That'll craft itself. And then I will take a look over here for the other stuff that I needed. So 2 springs, 2 bolts. Okay, easy. Easy. We'll knock out the springs now. So we need 2 of these little springy boys. There we go. I feel like manufacturing a spring would be a huge pain. Like, even if you had like a machine shop, like making a precision spring would kind of be a nightmare. Like, that feels like one of those things that just like a machine would be better at. Once like you just set it and forget it and it just stamps out springs. I think we should be good. I think that's everything. So I can make that back car a little bit bigger too. Oh, the 2 bolts. I totally forgot about them. Yeah, the 2 bolts. Okay, we're not going to have enough stuff. Because now that means that I also have to spend a bunch of time manufacturing even more iron. All right, job's done. We're finished up over here. It's time for us to start slamming things back together. I just want to upgrade you. There we go. You are now a double wide trailer in the back. And I think as of right now, I probably have more than enough space to expand into. I think I've got nice little customizable areas. I'm feeling pretty solid about my ability to move things around. Now, moving objects in this game is a little bit... It's not, like, complicated, but it's more difficult than, like, a lot of other games. And so, honestly, I think contextually, when you look at this right here, it should be, like, E to interact and, like, G to move, basically. And then it just puts it on your cursor, and you can move it wherever you want it to move to. In this game, you have to hold down T, you have to select your hammer, then you need to tap T. Once you have tapped T, the hammer comes out with a really nice animation, and then it costs you 1 wood to move all these workbenches and things around. And so there's a lot of little clicks, there's a lot of little things you gotta do in order to move an object around. And I just feel like other games like RimWorld and whatnot have it a lot simpler. You just kind of be like, move, dude. We are really out of wood right now, and I would love to... Damn it, shark, get out of here. Go away. Ooh, we got the magic reload animation. There's random reload animations for all the guns in this game. So you've got like a normal reload animation, but the guns in this game, they have an interdimensional animation that can happen where the gun like magically, psychically reloads itself or something while your character looks there with shaking hands, you know? Just kind of implying that odd things that can't be explained happen in this realm. I liked the first time it happened, I liked it a lot. I was like, oh, what is happening right now? Because, you know, you fire a gun 890 times and you reload it about a gazillion times, and then all of a sudden, the animation is different. You start asking yourself, like, did I level up? Like, what happened? Hey, get off my boat, dude. Get out of here. I don't understand why you are the way that you are. Like, is this like a game to you? This is my life. This train is all I have. It's the culmination of all my aspirations. Without this train, I am nothing. Without me, this train is nothing. There we go. All right, that means I can get the final floor on over here. There we go. And how much wood does that leave me with? 2 wood. That means I can move 2 benches around. I'm okay with the storage racks staying where they are. I like where those are at. I would like to make like a little food area. So I think our first candidate for relocation is like anything that has to do with like the blacksmithing, basically. I don't like it when it sticks out like a toe catcher. So we'll go ahead and put it right there. Nah, dude. That's how it's gonna be, huh? There's just no peace between the two of us. No relaxation. It's just you being an absolute animal and making my life difficult. Okay. That's how you want it to go down. It can go down like that. Research in this game is very easy. You just have to assemble all the parts. That's it. So what we need over here is like a bolt. And so let's mash out 1 bolt. And once we have mashed out said 1 bolt, we'll be able to go back to the workbench and we will be able to research. Or I will have forgotten to pick up my bolts, and then I'll sit there with my mouth agape being like, why is this not working? And hastily scribbling inside my little notepad. Like, this game said that it made me have bolts, and then when I checked for the bolts, there was no bolts. 0 out of 10 IGN. Oh, I missed. Fire wildly! Alright, well, firing wildly didn't work either. I did my best. We're probably going to want to get some din-din-aroonies knocked out pretty fast. I've got 2 organics over here. Organics, in quotes. I can fry 2 of them. Apparently the lumpy poo mass that we call dinner is at least slightly more appealing if we roast it first. There's been some disagreement on this point, but I think I'm just going to go with what the workbench says. I don't see... He gets his health back. I haven't been able to kill him yet, but I know that I killed him in other alphas of the game. Like, I remember killing him back when the game first came out, but he, like, runs off and heals for long periods of time. Get this train on the road. Let's get this thing toot toot. Let's get this thing moving, man. Well, there's our dinner, such as it is. It doesn't look great, man. I've seen my cat produce something that looks just like that on the carpet a few too many times, but I suppose we can also get some water flasks. This game doesn't distinguish between food and water. It doesn't care as long as something is going inside of your body. So, collect freely and do what thou will. That is the whole of the culinary law. Let's go ahead and grab... I think I'm really low on wood right now, too. So we probably want to resolve that before too long. A couple trays of water right there. We'll go ahead and use it. I never got around to making my bandages neither. Do I have anything? I was going to say, I don't know if I have anything that stacks up, but if I do have things that stack up, we should stacketh them, because inventory space is always at a premium. And looky there, after another section of track, we found ourselves another outpost. What kind of trouble awaits us here? Who knows? There's a lot of flying debris and refuse. Sometimes there's little secrets out in, like, the smoke, too. Like, I had one map that it spawned me in on where in the background you could see this giant critter being like, and, like, moving way in the background, and it was hard to tell. It looked like a really big version of this guy, right? Like an enormous version of that guy right there. Like, one of the biggest ones that you could possibly see. Damn, I need a gun that leads... You know what? Now that I've announced my presence... Yeah, let's just kind of, like, force them into cover, I guess. So that we can actually, like, make landfall. Oh, boy. Come on. That guy's down. Health is looking somewhat okay. Dude, who just shot it? Oh, there's a dude up there, too. He's on a little catwalk. Ooh, on the catwalk. Sometimes hip fire just works better. Sometimes you gotta wire, you know, you can't like Jesse James your way out of a situation you didn't Jesse James your way into. But I'm still gonna try. Oh, that man T-posed on his way out. Like that one last hurrah for dominance, dude. I respect it. So we got a token over here. I still haven't found like a gambling building in a little bit. Anybody else drop anything else good around here? Something green over here. Sometimes it can be hard to see through all the dead bodies. Looks like a revolver receiver. Well, if I ever get the armory, which is the building you use to modify your guns. Where did you come from? Where was that guy at? Somebody wore his purple pants today. There we go. I was just trying to pick up my green loot over here, dude. I'm not even trying to do anything too special. What kind of revolver modules do we got? We got the brawler, the heavy service frame. Okay, we can probably throw that out. Wash your hands, chat. That's very important when you're in the middle of the interdimensional ether. It's very important to wash your hands. If you don't, I can almost assure you, you will probably regret it. Oh no, I murdered him, dude. That tends to happen when you point a gun and discharge it at things. I like to learn my lessons in heartache the hard way, though. So what this place is every now and again, the Spotsies are going to set up like a roadblock, like an ambush. And that's what this is. You got to come up here and you got to shoot the yellow thing. And once you shoot the yellow thing, it takes the boot off of your... So, like, it puts like a boot, like you forgot to pay your bills on your train. And so... Once you shoot the big yellow thing, the boot falls off your train and you can leave. But on to my thoughts about the couple of hours that I've spent with the current Steam build of Voidtrain. I've kind of lost track of my timestamps here, so sorry if this ends up too short or too long. I'm doing my best. I think my thoughts really loop back to what I had said earlier in this episode. Like, this is basically Raft. It's been transposed into a different setting, and it's being produced with a much chunkier budget. I think that's actually fairly clear, whereas Raft was kind of funded by going viral off a student project on itch.io way back in the day. There are areas of improvement where I think the game could pop and shine a little bit harder, but I like to start with the good stuff on these impressions videos. So let me lead off with the good stuff. What's abundantly clear to me here is that a lot of love has been put into making the fractured, annihilated, interdimensional world of Voidtrain look and sound utterly incredible. At high graphical settings, this game is gorgeous. And maybe it's just because I spend most of my life playing 16-bit games, but I thought it looked great. Most of its post-processing effects are deployed very conservatively, which I noticed about the game. This is a welcome surprise for me, as most games, when they have access to like lighting effects and particle effects, chromatic aberration, lens flare, things of that nature, they tend to really slop it on, kind of like makeup that's been caked onto the game too thick. And you notice that it feels like all of those post processes are on there, just like, 3 or 4 millimeters too thick. I've always felt that the secret to like a good visual stack in a game is when the developers know exactly how much of each of the effects to apply, exactly what they do, exactly where they go, and like what cinematic cases you would use those things. And it felt to me like the Voidtrain developers did that really well. Lighting is gorgeous, and it blends where you expect it to blend into the surrounding. It blurs where you expect it to blur. The shadows, the color palettes, the reflections, everything in the game looks fantastic. Like, I hate to admit this, but even the motion blur is done well in this game. And you know how much I hate motion blur. I still turned it off, but it took me a good hour or so before I realized that there was motion blur even in the game because it felt quite subtle to me. The soundscape is well done. Monsters, they burble. They telegraph their attacks with wolf-like growls. There's chittering bird-like creatures that break up the terror of being all by yourself with a shark chasing you, and they kind of flutter around the craft, and they make noises that are adorable, and you kind of want to feed them a cracker. There are massive whale monsters rumbling in the background, and the flapping of tapestries when you get near teleportation points. All great. The soundtrack is also a banger and seems to contextually phase in and out in intensity depending on what's happening. And that, to me, added a lot of tension to the first-time experiences of going through portals, doing this, doing that, and having the music really swell and build and whatnot. Made it feel kind of intense and almost intoxicatingly overwhelming the first couple times you jump through a gate or whatever. The voice acting, very good. Love the narrator. He did a great job. The texture work is fantastic. Animations are all top-notch. And honestly, I think all of the animations here would fit in easily with any major development firm or CGI contractor out there. It looks great. Like, all of their animals look very fluid. They look very natural. All of the characters' first-person motions look fluid and natural. It looks great. And there's no shortage of things to grind, gather, craft, refine, process, turn into useful goodies. Little activities and busy work. However, I did find the game's pacing to be a little bit slow for me, and I felt like it over-tutorialized a bit. The game seems very hesitant to just sort of let the player off the chain into the sandbox to discover the game for themselves and kind of just figure out what they should be doing next. It wants to guide you step by step through crafting just about every object, every bench, every storage, like in order, and it doesn't have an immensely complicated chain of production, so I found that a little bit odd. But then again, I'm a big fan of, sink or swim type inaugurations to a game. Obviously, there was the case that I could just ignore a lot of the game's prompts of build this, then this, then this, then this, and I could just ignore it and go off on my own. That was totally an option, but it still tried to keep me on rails while I was writing the rails, and I didn't mean to be punny right there. It's just the way that it came out. As a fan of Show Don't Tell, I found that while the voice acting was really good, the first couple hours of the game, they did have little moments where it definitely got me interested in the narrative, but it felt slow. Like, there weren't enough points of interest. There wasn't enough world building. They didn't seed enough questions for later on in the game's narrative to keep you wanting to go gather logs and pick up space boogers to cook into waffles and that kind of stuff. It didn't go out of its way to hook me after the first 20 minutes or so. It's possible that resolves deeper on into the game once you start to get into the conspiracy of, like, why all the Spotsies are here, but I don't know. This is based on the first 3 hours or so that I played the game. For the combat, there are a few areas that I think they could focus on to make the game feel a little bit better. The revolver has a lot of sort of, like, visual animated recoil. It's probably, like, 2 to 4 times the actual recoil that the gun physically pulls back when you fire it, and to me it felt kind of weird. The pistol appears to be, like, I was looking at it for a while, and it's got a really small barrel bore, and so I figure it's like a 380 ACP or something, and so I figured it would have almost no recoil, just like a little plinking gun, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Enemy AI and variety, I think, could also be brought up a little bit. I found that while the Spotsies do try to take cover when they're taking fire, oftentimes they would get stuck out of cover and kind of like do like a 80-80-80, like back and forth erratically random strafing while firing thing. And it was kind of jarring compared to when they were attached to cover, because when they were in cover, the game felt pretty good when they were leaning out of cover to fire at me and with their back against a barrel, like kind of looking around their gas mask to see me but not firing and figure out where I was. Like, that felt really good, and it was jarring, those two ideas. I think more varieties of enemies would be a strong idea here as well, especially for the headquarters and station combat areas. The first 3 hours that I played the game, I think I've seen 2 types of things that can hurt me. The big shark and the pistol Spotsies, and that's about all they've thrown at me so far. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more technological, kind of like gun emplacements, you know, little like flying Dr. Eggman single-man vehicles that they fly around with while kind of like strafing you with gunfire like a fighter plane, World War II style, just ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then they fly off into the distance and you gotta kind of like snipe them out of their little vehicle and it blows up, leaving scrap metal all over the place. Guys with jetpacks that are chasing you down. That would have all been cool. After 3 hours, I feel like there should definitely be like 5-10 enemy types that the player has seen. You do fight a train later on in the game, but a lot of the gathering periods in the game felt a little bit too peaceful to me. I found myself craving a little bit more bite, antagonism, and conflict from the game to make gathering things a little bit more intense. Most of my closing issues are minor quibbles, because like a lot of the visual presentation and a lot of the voice acting and things of the game are quite good, but they do sort of add up over time. I think the game would probably do well to kind of take a look at its pacing in the first like 2 to 3 to 4 hours of the game, and maybe press down on the gas a little bit harder while trusting the player to take over and kind of process and experience the world themselves. My name is Splattercat. This is the Steam build of Voidtrain, which I am largely happy with. I know I just gave you a laundry list of things, but like when you talk about the good stuff, you gotta come in and you gotta talk about the things that personally stood out to you that you felt like were losing your interest there. It's by no means an indictment of the game. I still think this is a really good product. It just needs some more polish, just needs some more edges to be kind of sanded off, and the game is still in early access, so there's time to do that. I think I also owe you guys a look at the options menu before I go, so let's go ahead and do that. So inside display options, and game options is pretty much just swapping around your Epic account and your Steam account and like the linking and everything else, and then also the language localization, of which there seems to be about 15 languages you could pick from, but I didn't want to show all my accounts and everything else, so I'm like, I'll just edit it out real quick. Display-wise, we have DLSS over here. I've got it turned off because my system is rapidly aging. We have VSync, so that's good, just in case you have monitor tearing. You've got motion blur, which obviously I've turned off. Screen types, you've got all the usual culprits there, borderless, windowed, full screen. Resolution options, FOV does have a slider for those of you that have motion sickness. We've got a number of different DirectXs you can play around with as well, with like 12, and can you go down to 10? Oh, it looks like you pick between 11 and 12. Okay. You can also throw a FPS limiter on the game if you wanted to save processing power. You also have an active brightness adjuster, which is good. Some games don't include that, or gamma, which can make it difficult to brighten up darker portions of the game if your monitor is particularly muddy about that kind of stuff. We've also got graphics over here. My computer is aging. It's not the best computer anymore. I think I've had this computer now for Oh God, 4 or 5 years in there somewhere. And so it's the hardware that I'm using is not brand new hardware, but I was able to put everything on Epic. I have not lost a single frame the entire time I've been playing the game. It's been buttery smooth. You can change the view distance, post-processing, textures, foliage, anti-aliasing. We've got shadows, effects, no anisotropic filtering in here, unfortunately, which I would have liked to have seen separated off, but is what it is. Audio mixer, very simple stuff. Not a whole lot to play around with here. At the bare minimum, I would like to see voices or the narrator split off into another column as well, but not that huge of a deal. Over here, we have keyboard types, QWERTY and AZERTY, and then, of course, everything is fully re-key bindable, invertible. You've got different options for holding, tapping, toggling, for crouching, aiming, all that quality of life stuff along with general mouse sensitivity adjustments, so that's good. And then finally, we have all of our gamepad settings over here because the game is gamepad enabled. That's it. I'm fairly happy with the graphics options. I don't see anything jumping out at me. I think head bob was the only thing that I wanted to disable that I couldn't find, but that might be baked into the run animation. It's kind of hard to say from where we're at right now. I will see you all later. My name is Splattercat. I sift through the pile to find what is worthwhile in the world of indie games every single day so you don't have to. Today up on the chopping block, it was Voidtrain. Tomorrow, it'll be something else. Bye, folks.